And again, you know, remembering the instructions, okay, first time I'm on this panel and we're going to go through all of these and I can scribble any little notes I want. And when we're all done, this is gonna be sort of my basis for coming back and deciding what's up here.
Yes.
So there's nothing magical about there being 21 questions.
Well, there would only be 10. I printed them all out. There would only be 10 questions, 10 to 12 questions for an interview. These are just all the possibilities that I have written up right now.
So the panel I was on that time, did we just have 10?
Yeah, I think there was 12, or maybe 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably a good idea to have, you have 20 to choose from and you can change
Yes.
them around,
Yeah,
so.
that's the idea.
Integrity of the thing, okay. Well, so I do, back to this. This one, I guess the moderator one would say, please take 2 minutes and tell us about yourself. I thought, well, just stop. We don't need to say in just 2 minutes, we need to know everything there is to know about. Just take 2 minutes and tell us about yourself. And there's a lot in it. That's the person to see if they can comprehend what 2 minutes is, among other things.
The only objection I have to that second sentence is the everything. I think that, first of all, let me talk about my thinking on why that sentence should stay in place
Okay.
with a minor change. It puts pressure on the interviewer, on the interviewee, and we want that. And if this says in just 2 minutes, we need to understand the most important facts there are to know about you. Now that's why that question's there, I'm sure. Oh, take 2 minutes and tell me about yourself. You know?
Okay?
Versus, do you agree?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Do we want to change everything to the most important facts or the most important what?
Please take 2 minutes and tell us about things in your life that relate to this.
Oh. Most important.
Please take 2 minutes and tell
I
us
think it can just be
about
simplified. Tell us
things
about
in your
yourself.
life that,
I think just about yourself.
just leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah, about
Because it
yourself.
should be a little open-ended.
So it's the everything that I just wanted to.
Okay.
Everything is pretty comprehensive, even for 2 minutes.
Okay.
What do you think? The most important. Tell. In just 2 minutes, we need to know the most important blank about John Doe.
Okay.
What do you think blank should be? The most important. We need to know the most important blank about John Doe.
Well, the simplest word would just be things.
Yeah. Okay, things. Things is, that doesn't qualify it, I like that. Okay, I'm in agreement. Next.
On question 4, I just couldn't remember what that comment at the end where I have it circled was about. What's that split 2 questions?
Yeah, sometimes it could be just the first question that was asked, or they could come back and do like the second question be a whole another question, or do you want to keep it all in one question and have them do a double part?
So the first part
it's
is
just
what
an
is your
option.
definition? The first
Yeah.
part is what is your definition of excessive force? And then when you say split to 2 questions, the second question is how do you feel about the possibility?
Right. Yeah, so it could be just the first question, or
I
you
like
could
both.
double up.
I like both.
Yeah, I
because
think they kind
it's
of
a critical-
follow, I think
it's
it
a-
follows
yeah.
through.
Yeah.
So it kind of leaves it up to the person who got to read question 4 to decide if there's a second
No,
part.
it would have to be,
Just,
written out, either there's just gonna be the first question, or it would be a double question.
I thought, you know, I didn't know why that was there, but if that was just gone, that split part, and just read the whole thing.
Yeah, this is just examples, so it would be an example of, I could either place the first question only, or for a different.
I think they-
both together.
I think the first question should be asked and answered before the second question is asked.
Yeah, it could be split, and I think that that's already.
I wanna hear your definition
and
before you know that I'm gonna ask you about, how do you feel about using
Right,
force?
right.
I wanna hear your definition, and now you are in that box, and how are you going to apply that to you specifically?
Could it just be two questions? Question number 4 and question number 5?
We don't want as many as we can, let's make it one.
Yeah, I think that that's the general idea, is that.
They're
you
so
would- you
related,
would- Yeah, they're.
it's an amplification of the,
Yes.
of the first
It's an
part of the question.
explanation of the first part.
Agree? Okay, so we'll, make a note after, excessive force question, parentheses, wait for answer. Would that be clear to everybody?
Yes.
Okay.
I smile because what seemed to be clear wasn't clear. I was the person that the first time around asked this next question.
Oh, yes.
And I read that in the bracket stuff, but I
Yeah.
just didn't know when I got there.
From
So
the-
I thought-
Yeah.
I thought, are we done with this number?
If you
Excessive
agree with
force?
the,
Yeah.
if you agree with the changes, go ahead.
So reading this next one, I thought, well, why do we even need to put that if they ask stuff?
Not very many people, I'll just stop you right there. Not very many people will ask. There are some.
Experienced
will.
ones especially.
Yes, and so you need to, and so in the overall day of course of interviewing people, you will see a difference in how they respond to this question. But that was probably my bad on not making sure you understood the questions before we started. So, but,
Looking back, it was pretty obvious, but I didn't spot it at the time.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I agree with Jody, it's critical to have a standard response if they ask the questions, because when they ask for more information on this rather challenging scenario, there's a lot in it, they move up in my mind,
Right.
because it needs, the information that is given on the traffic stop needs more information before you can make a decision.
Right.
And when to me, this is one of the most important questions here, because if they're inexperienced, they may try to answer it, but they may hopefully come to the conclusion that I need more information. And if they are assertive enough to, whether they know they can ask for more information, they assert themselves to ask it anyway, because I don't wanna answer it, I need more info.
Right.
That to me is, there's a lot to that problem, right? That kind of a scenario. Do we need to make it bolder? Do we need to?
Well, yeah, maybe that would be the thing, a different font or something, so that Fred would say,
All caps isn't enough?
what is this? Yeah, something different.
Or, I think that, and the chief has been good about this with the new commissioner explaining the process, but maybe included in that is on number 5.
Yes, yes, yeah.
If
Right.
they ask, you know,
Yeah.
just so you would have had that, your attention would have been drawn to that if you drew the lucky number 5 to ask.
And to just pause there for a second, it seems like during that last one, there was some question about whether a commissioner would even be on this panel.
Correct. You won't.
Huh?
You won't. You can't be on any further
Right.
details. Right.
Okay.
Refresh my memory on that?
Yeah, because of your role as commissioners would just be to hear grievances, not participate in the interviewing.
Do we still do applicant review for eligibility list? Was that by a new RCW or something? Was it, or was that just determined by, I'm sorry, going back to that conversation.
I think in here, the rules
Oh, our new policy rules.
that
course, we can change that if we choose to. I don't think that violates an RCW.
I think we need to be involved in one of them.
Well, I would think this is, the actual interview would be the one that we'd want to be involved with. That's where you're going to find the most out about a candidate versus what we see in a,
That's right, we don't even have them in front of us. They're just up,
on a
black and
screen.
white on a screen.
It's rule 4, application procedures of candidates and applicants. Section 3, application review. Secretary chief examiner shall review each application to ensure qualification under the minimum standard. The secretary and chief examiner will forward the application to the chief of police, who shall file his findings with the examiner.
Where's, talk about the interview?
It's on page 4.
Can you,
The rules?
page 4?
Yes.
What number? Section?
Section
Section 3, applicant review.
rule 4.
Shall review each application, ensure qualification. And these rules and regulations for further review. No one who has been dismissed. I don't see where it restricts commissioners from interviewing. Help me, where in 3 does it talk about the interview? Minimum
Just
standards.
looking at the application. So back to page 1,
Okay,
the power and duties of the commission.
yes,
Adopt the rules,
yep,
approve the minutes.
yep,
Provide for holding competitive tests. So in that sense, you're approving the eligibility list when it's
okay,
brought forward. Conduct civil suits that are necessary.
okay,
Provide for investigations and hearings. Investigate and report on matters relating to enforcement and effect of the municipal code and the rules under chapter 2.45 or RCW 4112. And have powers and duties as are imposed upon the commission by the chapter
and
2.45.
2.45 doesn't have anything about interviewing, I'm guessing. Commissioner, your thoughts?
It's pretty limited, and that's why when I discussed it with the other chief examiner, and she explained, it's the protection that you guys would hear any grievance. So
That we weren't involved in the hiring?
Yes. That's what it falls onto.
Grievance. Hired. Suggesting that we would be biased in the grievance hearing because we were approved of intake. And how many people gave you that opinion?
I asked the lady from Douglas County.
And what was her position?
Chief
Equivalent?
examiner. She's been doing it for a couple decades.
So I brought it up, but I'd like the opportunity to just not take any action on my point now, because I'd like to review all the rules and everything to see about our role in this before making any. Yes, you can be in on the interviews, or no, you can't, or whatever.
We can't. That's established by our current rules, right here. It doesn't specify that we have that authority or duty.
No, it doesn't say we can, doesn't say we can't.
It does, it confines it into the.
We are confined to
the
these.
municipal code and or the RCW, and that's not listed in either one of those.
Right.
different levels, there's the rules, there's the RCW, there's the city code,
Right.
you know, and I just wanna look at all of them about what it might say that would influence how I think that ought to be.
Sure.
Also, could you do, I'm sure you know other examiners, secretary examiners, could you reach out to one or two more to fill out that agenda item with their reports? Please. Okay.
And what she finds doesn't necessarily dictate where we have to go, but it gives us an idea of what others do.
Well, if all three say no, I would tend to
Okay.
say they figured this out before we have.
Yeah.
Back to the questions?
So I just thought question 7 just would, I would just eliminate it. And they've done this preliminary hiring stuff where they, where does the poly come in the process? After this?
After.
When they get through the.
Sometimes they don't give a thought of that, and,
It doesn't say it on the application part, because
I think it does.
I think it does
I
too.
don't- But sometimes they just don't think what that all might.
Or sometimes they see it later, because we've seen the chronology of how they answer their offenses.
Yes,
And,
yeah,
and then they suddenly are
Yes.
providing all kinds of details in those offenses,
yeah,
knowing they're gonna be poly.
right, so that's just,
So, okay, keep that.
it's just, yeah,
Uh,
it's just one of those.
But I don't see the value of number 8. Whether they believe it or not, I mean, it is, it's a fact, and it's separate from them, they don't have any control or anything else in it. Why do we care what their belief in it is?
I think that
it
this is more of a, if they became employed and they were using it in a case.
Yes, how do they feel about using it in cases?
Well, they don't have any choice, do they? I mean, it's done by someone else, and it's just a fact on it.
I think it's
Report
just
or
one of
something.
those, I think it's just another question to kind of see their thought process on, have they watched every episode of CSI, or are they just coming from this to just function on, you know, how they should be trained? It's just one of those questions that can give a little insight onto their thought process.
If we had to eliminate one, I would say that one.
Sure,
That
yeah.
could go.
And I don't think that that was on our original, I think this is
I don't
other
remember.
questions that I had gotten from another, agency.
Is there any, on number 9, if all the candidates are equally qualified, why should you be selected for the position? Is there a sand trap in that somewhere with all this DEI stuff going on?
I don't look at it from that perspective, I can see how, like, now that you just pointed that out. I think that there's another way of saying that, I think that there's another question in
Is there?
here.
Okay.
I think we've asked a similar question, but not exactly with that verbiage. You know, like what makes you the most, why would you think you're the most qualified candidate or that we're, you know, interviewing today, or what would make you stand out amongst your peers or something like that, I think would be another question that could be, you know, put in that place of that one.
Okay.
I don't really particularly like that verbiage anyways, I think I would tweak that question.
Let's X that one out. Since we've got to narrow down from 21 to 12.
Well, no, this is just a sampling of possible questions. So the next one I would pick from this list of.
They're
some of
not
the
always
things
the same.
is-
Aren't we clever?
Yeah.
Don't want someone coming in too.
Yes, gotcha. Okay, what do you have about 10? Yeah, we can cross some stuff in here.
Did I cross something?